Good morning, AJ and everyone else on the call.
Good morning. Good morning, Mayor Lois. So we're going to kick this thing off. I'm AJ Ali. I'm the founder and CEO of the Love is the Answer movement. And we're live streaming this morning. We're going to go for about an hour and 45 minutes. We're gathering today under unfortunate circumstances. Of course, many of you have heard about the most recent shootings, and this one in Buffalo, New York, where a person drove 4 hours to go kill Black people. And I thought when I saw it, here we go again. Every time something like this happens, there are thoughts and prayers and not a lot of action. And we've got to do something about it. Now, as the leader of the Love is the Answer movement, our whole philosophy is where we teach love, there will be love. But nowhere in America is love taught in elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, colleges, universities. It's barely taught in ministries. I'm talking about going deep. I'm not talking about one sermon or one talk. I'm not talking about a series of 2 or 3 hour long talks. I'm talking about going really going deep and examining what does it mean to love yourself and love your neighbor. How do we get there? And people don't want to take the time, pure and simple. They don't want to take the time to do that. And when things like this happen, there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions and a lot of talk, but not a lot of action. And we're very lucky to have a mayor on with us, who I'm hoping she'll share some wisdom with us. I don't see a lot of leaders out there like her. I just don't. I see a lot of leaders, using the air quotes, that will talk a good game, but what their actions are totally different, or don't live up to what they say they're going to do or what they believe in. We got to stop making decisions based on how it's going to look in the polls. And I'm talking to politicians right now. We got to stop making decisions based on whether your party is going to like it or not, or sticking with your party line on an issue. You've got to start looking at things beyond your term. We have a 30-year business plan for Love is the Answer. Who does that? Not many people in America. It's usually quarterly or annually, or maybe 3 or 5 years, just for show. But we started out 10 years ago with a 30-year mission. First 10 years, develop products to help people learn how to love each other. And we've done that with an award-winning film, book, workshops, webinars, school curriculum. This next 10 years, which starts this year, June of 2022 will be 10th year. We're going to train up leaders all over the world to teach them how to lead with love. In the final 10 years, we're looking for those leaders and others to spread that love around the world. We have a big goal. We want to train 100 million people on how to love each other. I wish we were there right now because it is so needed. There's no reason for a young man to drive 4 hours across through many communities to write the N-word on his weapon and then go fire on people in a supermarket with the intention of killing Black people. Black people weren't the only ones to be killed. So if you're white and you're watching this and you're thinking, well, no big deal, you know, you could be the next person in a supermarket standing next to me getting shot. So you better care. You better care about me. You better care about what happens to Black people in America. 400 plus years of oppression, hatred, vitriol. It's got to stop, people. I mean, we got to stop this nonsense. We got to stop this craziness. We got to start looking out for each other. We got to start loving each other. And you know, I want to open it up for if anyone on the live stream, on the Zoom, wants to share what's on their heart right now. I want you to unmute and say a few words, because we need some voices heard on this subject about the importance of loving each other. You know, this is not a quick fix. We're not going to end racism overnight. We're not going to end terrorist shootings and other acts of violence by terrorists. He was a terrorist. The extreme word doesn't go far enough for me. Extreme to me is someone who skis down a double black diamond mountain on one ski. That's extreme. Extreme for me is somebody who jumps out of an airplane. This is terrorism. This scares me. All right. It might not fit the typical definition that is used so often in America. But if a brown person, a Muslim, drove 4 hours to go kill white people, they'd have called him a terrorist right off the bat. So he's a terrorist. These acts of terror aren't going to go away overnight. The hate, the division is not going to go away overnight. So what are we going to do about it? Thoughts and prayers? How's that working out? We got to do the hard work. People got to teach each other how to love each other. We got to model it. We got to show it, not just talk about it. Spend the time. We just had a dozen people graduate from a mentoring class where they spent 40 hours over 17 weeks learning how to love themselves and their neighbors. And I'm telling you, each one of them were deeply, deeply moved by that experience. We've got others that are in training now. We got another class later on this year, and we're going to keep on building it, keep on growing it. And then the people that we just trained, they're going to be mentoring other people using what they learned. And you know, it's like you throw the rock into the pond and you see the ripple effect, right? Well, that's what we're hoping will happen with this, that in 6 months, we will have changed some lives, changed the way some people think. In a year, even more. 5 years, even more. 10 years, even more. It may take 20 years. But I believe that if we put the work in over that time, we'll see a shift. And no politician, I'm sorry, not many, I don't want to say all, because we're working with some folks that get that vision, that long-term vision, but not too many want to think that far ahead, because it's not going to help them in the polls and their fundraising and their votes. But we got to have some brave leaders stepping up and saying, you know what, it's not about me. It's about solving this problem and being willing to put in the work to do it. So, you know, folks, I could talk about this subject for the next hour and 40 minutes, but I really want to hear from some folks. If you see the link, if you're not on the Zoom already, get on the Zoom, share a few thoughts. If you're on now, you feel free to unmute at any time and share what's on your heart about not only this specific issue in Buffalo, but about us coming together to make things better. You know, that's where it's at. We got to put in the work, folks. Yeah. I'm going to share a quote with you. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "This darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." I'm going to say that again because some of y'all may not have gotten that. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. We got to start learning how to love each other. You know, love can solve so many issues. We've got folks that are fighting right now about wearing a mask or not. I had a guy yesterday. I was at lunch with a friend, and I went to the restroom, and this guy walked in. I was just about ready to leave. I had my mask on inside, and he made a comment, a smart comment about wearing a mask, how stupid it was. And I just politely said to him, "Sir, I got a wife that just beat stage 4 cancer. And I'm not intending on bringing anything home to her that's going to hurt her and her weakened immune system." And I didn't yell at him. I didn't cuss him out. I didn't tell him he was an idiot. I just told him what I was feeling. And I said, "Look, if you don't want to wear a mask, that's fine, but I've got my reasons. Have a nice day." And then he got into a conversation with me, and turned out he wasn't so bad. We differed on a view, but very easily that could have been in another circumstance with other people, could have turned into a fight, because that's how things are going these days. Back when I was growing up, I'm 58, so when I was a teenager, you had a beef with someone, you got in a fight, and other people broke it up, and then that was it. Now people are so quick to pull out a knife or a gun or try to run you over with their car. We need to learn how to love each other. I'm in Henderson, Nevada, and the Clark County schools, the Las Vegas schools. There's so much bad news coming out of those schools, and maybe where you are too. But there was a teacher recently attacked here in a classroom, and things have been going on in schools here for a long time. And Black and brown students are bearing the brunt of the expulsions and arrests and other punishment that is meted out. And these kids have been hurting for a long time. And I've talked with about a dozen people who are familiar with the schools, and not one of them has told me that the students are getting enough attention, enough care, enough love. Problems have been going on for a while. Now that teachers are being attacked, all of a sudden it's all over the news, and it's a big issue like it just started yesterday. But this is the result of years of neglect, of neglecting people's hearts. And then you add to that the pandemic and all the uncertainty, and young people seeing how older people are acting. And what are they going to do? They learn from us, from watching us. that young man who committed a terrorist act, who killed 10 people and wounded 3 others, learned his behavior from somewhere, from someone, probably someone older than him, and probably many people older than him. Not a lot of people want to speak out on this subject from a position of what can we do about it using love, because most people think it's just some warm, mushy feeling that has no action tied to it. But the reality is, love is the most powerful force in the universe. It is. If it wasn't, this world would have been gone a long time ago. I served at a nuclear missile base in the U.S. Air Force. And I know how close we've come to everything just ending. You know, we're in one of those times right now. We're sending billions of dollars of aid to Ukraine because this country being overrun by a mass murderer who's got access to nuclear weapons. And we got to learn how to love each other, people. It's just too much hate. Again, if anybody wants to take themselves off mute and share their feelings on this subject, you're welcome to at any time. I'm comfortable with sitting here in silence for a moment and just thinking about what's going on right now. And the inaction of so many people who don't want to put in the hard work and then act surprised when things like this happen. I'm going to do a little teaching right now. I'm going to share my screen again. And when I talk about love, you know, what am I talking about? Let's break it down with this acronym to learn about people, to open your heart to their needs, to volunteer to be a part of the solution in their life and empower others to do the same, to learn about people. That L in love. You know, we spend a lot of time with Love is the Answer training peace officers on how to truly embrace community policing with the Love is the Answer principles as the standard. So we ask them to, with every interaction, to learn about that person that they're dealing with, to open their heart to their needs, to treat them like they are their favorite family member in a moment of crisis. To then volunteer to be part of the solution in that person's life. It may mean that they have to take that person to jail because of something that they've done. It doesn't mean, love doesn't mean there aren't any consequences for bad behavior, for hurting someone or stealing something. But you can take someone to jail without disrespecting them. You can apprehend someone in most cases without beating them or tasing them or shooting them. I know sometimes that's necessary, but all too often we're too quick to resort to violence. And that's not just police, that's everybody. You know, what does it mean for me? You know, when I see someone who's hurting out in the street, do I just drive by and not care? Someone else will take care of that problem. That homeless person, that mentally ill person, that person who standing there on the side of a road with a sign saying, help me. Somebody else will get that. It's not my problem. But it is. And once we learn about something, I feel like we have a responsibility to do something about it. You know, we learn with our mind. But there's another part of learning that we don't get to do unless we open up our heart to that person. That's the O and that love. We can't have empathy towards someone. Our time is too valuable for that. We're too big to help out. We're too important. We've got to learn how to open our hearts up, people. Because I guarantee you that that young man, there were opportunities for people to build into him with love over the years. It would have stopped that horrible thing from happening yesterday. The V in love is to volunteer yourself to be part of the solution for your family, your neighbors, your community, your nation, the world. Little things, you know, you don't have to save the whole world. You don't have to save everybody, but if you take the time to pick up a plastic bottle and dispose of it properly, you may help the environment just a little bit. I used to live in Santa Monica at the beach, and you know, stuff would wash into the ocean, and then we'd see fish, you know, and other life forms wash up on shore, just, you know, with plastic hanging out of its mouth. Somebody could have taken the time to dispose of something properly, and that life would have been saved. And you might think, oh, that's silly, that's nothing, you know. But you multiply that by 1 billion times a year, and there you go. We got a planet that's dying. We're fighting each other over wearing masks, color of skin. Come on, man. Really? That's where we are in 2022? With as much access to education. You know, we don't even need textbooks. We've got phones that can access every bit of information on the planet that's ever been stored in the palm of our hand. And if it's only going in here and not in your heart, it's a recipe for disaster. Hitler was an intelligent man. He wasn't stupid. Putin is an intelligent man. He's not stupid. So having a PhD or a master's degree or some higher level of education doesn't mean you're going to solve all the world's problems, be a good person. It just means you know stuff and you can use that for good or for evil. So learning by itself won't do anything to change the world. could just be enough to make it worse. We got to open our hearts. We got to start feeling for each other as if our lives depended on each other, because they do. We've got to volunteer ourselves to be part of the solution for someone else. And if you're hearing this and all you do is give a kind word to your neighbor, you've made a difference. You know, that person may be going through a struggle and may be looking for a reason to live. I know, because I've been there. I suffer from depression, and I tried to take my life when I was a young man in 1984, during the time I was in the Air Force. To this day, there are days that I don't know if I want to be here anymore. Pure and simple. I start every day with 24 push-ups, 22 for the veterans that we're going to lose that day because they didn't get enough care, enough love to help them through the day. 22 for them, for the ones that we're going to lose today. One to remind me that I've got work to do, that I need to be here one more day, and one for the person that I need to reach out to personally. And I make a habit of that. I reach out to a fellow veteran every day in some form or fashion. Phone call, email, text, iMessage, direct message, one a day, just to say, hey, how you doing? What's up? You know? And sometimes I get a message back saying, man, I'm glad you reached out because today's not a good day. I've had people that they've thought about going out and hurting people or hurting themselves. And just talking with someone made a difference for them. Who is that one person a day that you can reach out to, that you can make a difference with, that you can love, that you can learn about, open your heart, volunteer yourself to be part of the solution? Because when you do those three things, inherently, you are empowering others to do the same. People notice. You know, you may not post it on Facebook or Twitter every time you do a good thing, but I've had people tell me, man, I've been watching you for 10 years and can't tell you how many times you've inspired me. And some of those folks, I've turned around and said the same thing. I said, bro, man, I've been watching you too, and I've been watching your posts, and I've been seeing how you treat people, and you've been inspiring to me. Iron sharpens iron. We lift each other up. Every good deed. It may seem like good deeds, you know, you're punished for them sometimes, but I'm telling you, every good deed is making the world a better place. It's inspiring someone to do good. When you spread love, you learn about someone and open your heart to them and volunteer to be part of the solution in their life, you are empowering others to do the same. By doing this, we'll start to experience changes in attitudes and stronger communities and fewer people resorting to picking up a gun and going and shooting people. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. we do this thing with Love is the Answer. You know, we really love and appreciate different cultures from around the world. Ubuntu from Africa, I am because you are. I am better because you are. You make me a better man when you spread love. You inspire me to do that. You know, in Hawaii, my spiritual home, I was born in Washington, D.C., and I grew up in Maryland, and I spent a lot of adult years in California, been to Hawaii more than a half a dozen times, closing in on a dozen. My mom lived there. She worked for NSA. And I've studied the culture deeply, as I have many other cultures, but Hawaii has always spoken to me. And every time I've gone, I've had a life-changing experience, literally since the age of 9. And there's a term called ohana, which basically means family, an extended family. It also means if I see my neighbor, we've spoken and we got to know each other a little bit, I'm going to consider that person my ohana too. No blood relation that I know of, but I want to love my neighbor as if they were flesh and blood, my favorite family members. And that's a big, big part of who we are and what we do. I ask peace officers to treat people that they stop as if they were stopping their favorite family member. So what if my mother was having a really, really bad day and a bad episode, mental health crisis? Would I beat her up? If I was a peace officer, would I tase her? I'd do everything in my power to not do those things. I'd take as much time as I needed, much time as I had, to make sure that she got out of that situation safely. And I'm telling you, this young man that drove 4 hours through many communities, past a lot of people, and settled on that supermarket in Buffalo. Had more people shown him true love, I don't think he would have done it. I don't think activity like that happens in a vacuum. I just don't. I don't think we're wired that way. You know, we're made in the image of God. God is love. So if we're made in the image of God and God is love, then we're made in the image of love. And it takes a whole lot of work to break that down and break that away from us and turn us to hate. You learn that. You learn that somewhere. You learn that from other people. You learn that from systems that don't care about you. I'm a Black man in America. I'm 58 years old. I've seen a lot of stuff. I was born in 1963. I know some of you watching are older than me and thinking, man, you're a kid. Some of you may be watching thinking, I can't even relate, you know, but I've been around for the 60s, the turmoil, 70s, seeing Vietnam veterans come back home to get spit on. The 80s, the Cold War, which if anyone thinks there was nothing going on militarily during that time, just talk, you're wrong. 90s, 2000s, 2010s, here we are in 2022. Things are not getting better, they're getting worse. Why? Because we don't teach love. We got to take the time, folks, to do that. We really do.
Question, AJ, if you don't mind. Why do you think, or why do any of us think or observe that things are getting worse?
Lois, that's a good question. Look at the number of people that are in a mental health crisis. Look at the amount of drug use, prescription and otherwise, legal and illegal. Look at the fact that police departments all over the country have a hard time retaining people. People are fleeing from leadership in schools. Teachers are leaving the schools, the workplace. There's so much anxiety, so much tension. On social media, it's just people are feeding into this beast of divide and hatred. Every time you turn on the news, it's bad news, except for Good Morning America, and maybe one small segment in the evening news about some puppy that got found. But 90% of it is bad news. And if you look at the number of people that are hurting, that don't have enough, while we've got billionaires flying off into space for fun and seeking to prepare a safe place for them and their families when the shit hits the fan. Things are getting worse, but things don't have to continue to get worse. We have that power to change things. We have that power. It's not going to manifest itself just by thoughts and prayers. Faith without works is dead. And if people aren't willing to do the work to make things better, things are going to continue to get worse. We got to move into action. We did some training of some folks in the corporate world, a company called Marsh, a company that's doing a lot of good things, a lot of good people working there. And we trained about 600 of their people through virtual training during the pandemic. And I want to give a shout out to Charmaine Davis, who was responsible for us being able to get in there and do this work. And they were pleased with that work, to the tune of so much so that after we completed that work, they blessed us with a sponsorship of $100,000. And we put that money to good use, serving people, training people, going into schools, giving away some licenses for free to high schools and other organizations. We created a mentoring, we call it the Love is the Answer mentoring circle training class. We spent about a year developing that course. And that course, which is 40 hours long, is designed to teach leaders how to lead with love, how to mentor folks with these Love is the Answer principles. And we just graduated our first 12 this Saturday. In fact, the exact same time that we were celebrating the graduation of these 12, a young man opened fire in a supermarket with the intent to kill as many Black people as he could kill. And he killed 8 Black people and 2 white people. We were celebrating, and he was killing. It reminds me of a Marvel movie where some heroes in training got through their training and they were celebrating only to get a call that they were needed because the world was in danger from villains. And those newly minted superheroes hopped in their plane and took off to go fight evil. They didn't get to celebrate much. They had just graduated, and then they had to put it to the test. We've seen this over and over and over again in Hollywood films. I could rattle off a dozen, 2 dozen names of films where that exact thing has happened. So we have to put the work in. We got to get the work done, because hate can only be overcome by love. If we learn how to love and we don't do anything with it, if we have $1,000 in our bank account and we can't take 2 minutes to give someone in need a couple of bucks, then why should we be surprised when a young man loads up his car with weapons, drives 4 hours, and goes and kills people? Dr. Cash, one of our distinguished graduates in the first cohort of the Love is the Answer Mentoring Circle training class. Good to see you.
Good morning, sir. Thank you
How you
so
doing?
much. I'm good. I'm good. And what you just shared about the superheroes, everybody was awarded their cape. Everybody was awarded their just celebrating, and it was a high time. And then it's like, okay, party's over. Now the work begins. And you did say that yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Now the work begins. And it's, I wrote somewhere else, every day we wake up with choices and options. And if we say that we are of God, or whomever your higher power is, if we say that we are of someone who is loving and caring, and that's who we're supposed to emulate, every day we have a choice. Every single day we wake up with a choice. And the choices and options that we exercise on that day is a ripple effect. We talked about that ripple effect that affects someone else. You may think, well, this $1 isn't going to do any good when I hand it to this person who asked me for $1. But you don't know that person's story. That $1 may be the rest of the $10 that that person needs to get the baby some milk so that the baby can grow up and over the next 30 years, thrive, learn, and then become the next president. One of the things that and this is me, one of the things that I believe that is part of our situation is that we want to know everything. I don't want to help you unless I know what's going to happen with my dollar. I don't want to step out because something may come back and reflect back on me. But the Bible tells us that we were only given 2 commandments: love God and love everybody else. If you do that, then that covers everything. We're not told to figure out anybody else. We're not told to screen anybody else. We're not told to judge anybody else. And so, AJ, I love what you said earlier about what you do. Every day you call somebody. I'm also an Army veteran. I'm also a veteran of the United States Army, not the Air Force, but the Army.
Thank you for your service.
And thank you. And you said earlier that things were going on during the 80s that regular America didn't know about.
Yeah.
And, you know, when those of us who came home from that time of service, you know, we were looked at as, oh, you didn't do anything. There was nothing going on. It's like, wait a minute, hold on. You know, just because you didn't know, just because you didn't know, there were things going on. And when we look at our fellow veterans who are the 22, the 20, the 18, depending on whose statistics you look at, one is too many. That's right. One is too many that decides that, you know what, I don't want to be here today. And that phone call that you make that says, hey, how you doing? That dollar you give, that extra Starbucks coffee you pay for, that paying forward. Let me pay for the bill of the person in the car behind me. You don't know what it did to that person. And when you do those selfless acts of love, that's love is the answer right there. Because you're beginning to learn about what may be going on in someone else's life. You don't have to know everything, but just stop and think about, wow, that could have been me. You know, we have to get out of these silos. We have to get out of, you know, I have all the answers. I need to do all of this. No, we have to get out because it's a we thing.
That's right.
We work together to heal each other. And I wanted to read two passages of scripture. One of my favorites, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And it was so funny when I started this journey with the Love is the Answer movement, that was one of the things that I ended the first meeting with, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And when we look at that, it tells us, you know, sometimes people don't understand what love is because they have not experienced love, or they think they have not experienced love.
Yeah.
Because you know, we define love in different ways. And sometimes my definition of love is different than yours. But then when we take these love principles, we get it all together. It all stirs up in the same pot. Because if I learn about you and I open my mind to what you're doing and I volunteer to do things with you, and then I empower you to do all of that for yourself. I'm a peer specialist. I support not only veterans, but I support people who have needs. And that's what love is, giving of yourself, not waiting for somebody to give you something back, not wanting to know what happened with what I did for you, not being concerned if, well, you didn't call my name and I helped you through your struggle, but that's okay. You know, and sometimes that taints a person's heart. Well, they didn't call my name, so I'm not going to do this anymore. Or they didn't call my name, so when they ask me for help anymore, I'm not going to help them. Or watch this, I'm going to rub it in their face that they did not call my name. So I'm going to make them feel bad, which negates that whole action of love that I did in the first place. Because I didn't do it for the other person, which is love is action towards someone else. I didn't do it for them, I did it for me. And when I do it for me, then the other person does not benefit. Because now I've made you feel bad. I've probably embarrassed you. I've probably done all these things that the heightness of the power of the love that I shared with you has now been diminished because of the other stuff I put on top of it. So if we just love, let me read this, 1 Corinthians 13. If you don't mind, if I read the entire chapter.
Go for it.
Because it covers everything. So I'm reading from the New International Version, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. I'm just making noise. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Here is love. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. That was 1 Corinthians chapter 13.
Amen. Amen. I want to share my screen for a second.
Amen.
Amen.
Because that is a verse that we use. We pulling out from 1 Corinthians 13:13, right? Let's put that love into action.
Yes.
Yeah. Dr. Cash, thank you. I want to ask you a question. So you're over at the Greater LA Medical, the medical center?
I'm at the downtown clinic in Los Angeles.
Downtown clinic, okay. So have you ever gone to work and you weren't feeling your best? Maybe you were having a bad day yourself, and then you had someone come to you and needed help. What did you do? Did you cuss that person out and tell them, no, it's not a good time? It's just get the hell out of here because I don't want to see you today because I'm having a bad day. What'd you do, Dr. Cash?
Oh, and there are many days like that. There are many days like that. I start my day when I get up in the morning and I do my meditation and prayer. And when I talk to people going in, even if I'm feeling it, there's a phrase that says, fake it till you make it. So when I go in, if I know I'm not feeling well, how are you doing today, Kathy? I'm awesome and amazing. And I just keep repeating that to myself. And then sometimes I put the emphasis on the and. I'm awesome and amazing. Because I look to God to see what he's doing in my life. And that person that comes needing help, I might have to take a couple of deep breaths. I may have to step away for a moment, but I'm giving of myself. And that's, for lack of a better word, that's one of my trademarks. My joke is that my phone number is written on the walls of the VA bathroom because I get calls from people. I have people showing up at my desk. The operator, when someone calls the operator, and again, this must be posted somewhere, I will get these random calls. I have a veteran on the line and they need X, Y, and Z. Can you talk to them? And I talk to them and I route them and I do whatever I can do because, again, we're all in this together. It's not, there's a line between that's not my job, and I'm here to serve you. So when we talk about love, we're here to serve each other, because that's what Jesus said. They will know that you're my disciples by the love you show one to another. How do you show love? Through service. Jesus, who was here as a king, he came the epitome of God. He came to serve. And his disciples couldn't understand it. Wait a minute, why are you washing my feet? Right. I'm showing you how to serve somebody. You cannot get to be too high and too mighty to serve. So I look back on the things that I wanted in life in my 20 plus years, 30 plus years of being out of the service and of just trying to navigate through life without any support. So it becomes now, if I don't know it, I will find it out. And I believe that's my expression of love to anybody and everybody. So so in answer to your question, I kind of put my feelings to the side. I take care of myself. So I don't want anybody to think that I don't do that. I am a proponent of self-care. I will do what I can do. I've learned techniques on how to take care of myself while I'm serving others. And then it becomes, I'm just showing love. I'm just showing love. So even those who come back time after time after time, and I'm having to tell them the same thing over and over again, the flesh in me, yes, gets frustrated. But then again, I take that breath and say, okay, how are we going to do this? And then I say, okay, Lord, what I'm doing isn't working. How do you want me to do this? Whether we write it down, whether we pull out the smartphone and do a recording, we just use all of these innovative ways to get the support to people that they need. So I told God, I said, Lord, I'm available. Lord, I'm available. I pastor an online ministry, accepting my calling after a long time of running. And you run too much, you get tired. You say, okay, Lord, I surrender. I'm going to do this. And then that becomes—
You can't outrun God. Just like you can't outrun God, you can't outgive God.
Yeah.
Amen.
You can't. So I'm there. I am there. I am here. As one of the first 12 graduates, again, as I've been saying, and as I share with everyone, I just love the fact that we have this platform, because oftentimes we cannot identify what it is we want to do or how we want to do it. So when someone comes along and gives you a playbook and says, all you got to do is read it and follow directions, it's just like a coach for a football team or basketball team or any sports team. When that athlete shows up on the field, the coach is not teaching them how to play. The coach is taking the skills that they have and honing them into a better athlete. So with love is the answer, we all have the capacity to love. Some of us need a little more nudging than others. Just like that person who couldn't catch the football. I watched their replacements the other night. It's just like the person who couldn't catch the football. They just practiced and practiced and practiced, and then he could catch the football. He knew how to do it, but it just was not connecting. So giving these 4 principles of love is teaching, will teach us, is teaching us and will teaching us the community, us law enforcement, us everybody who desires to. It's no longer, I don't know how to do it. It's here. We're here to support you as you take what you know or what you want to do and put it into action.
Amen.
So that's love. And that's what we do.
That's what we do. Let me share real quick. And I want to get some other perspectives as well. So, but let me share one thing real quick. Let's see here. Bear with me. I'm getting this screen share right. Here we go. So this is the pledge. This is the cornerstone of our mentoring circle training class. This is what every single time we got together for 17 weeks, students would reflect on this and recommit to this pledge. And I want you to see it because I want you to do it. If you're watching this right now, I want you to commit to these 4 things, to put these things into your life. There are mayors and police chiefs and sheriffs and social workers and CEOs and others who spent 17 weeks. These are leaders who spent 17 weeks learning these principles. I'm not asking you to do 17 weeks right now. I'm asking you to do like 17 seconds. And I promise you, if you take this pledge into your heart and you put it into action today with one person, you're going to make a difference. I challenge you. I challenge everyone to take this pledge. I'm going to say it right now. I'm just going to read it out. I pledge to learn about the people in my community, to unconditionally. That means I can't say everybody but the police. No, I got to love them too. Unconditionally open my heart to their needs as if they were all immediate family members. No matter what someone from some group of people has done to me in the past, I'm going to unconditionally open my heart to their needs as if they were all immediate family members. I'm going to volunteer to be part of the solution in their lives during both good and challenging times. It's easy to love someone when things are going right. It's a lot harder to do it when things are going wrong. And my wife and I just celebrated 28 years of marriage, and it hasn't always been fun. In fact, the first 7 years, we had a lot of problems. She left me for a time. We were separated, went to stay with friends. She didn't feel safe. And at the time, I hated them for that because I felt like they were taking her away from me. And in fact, what I was doing was trying to control her. And it took me months to realize what I was doing was wrong. And eventually we got back together, and it took work, but by our 10th anniversary, things couldn't have been better. And here we are at 28. And I got to tell you, from 10 to 28, it has gotten better every year. And we haven't always been in good health. I almost died of a pulmonary embolism. My wife has had 2 bouts with cancer. We haven't always had any money. There have been times when we were months behind on rent. You know, had a vehicle repossessed. Couldn't go to the store to get enough food. So we've been through some things, ups and downs. We've been high up on the mountaintop and way down in the valley. But love always wins. We never gave up on each other, and we learned from our mistakes, and we built upon the successes, and here we are celebrating. But this love thing takes work. So, you know, when you pledge to learn about someone in your community, and when you say that you're going to unconditionally open your heart to their needs, and when you say that you're going to volunteer to be part of the solution in their life during both good and challenging times, know that those challenging times are going to come, and they're going to test you. But it's worth it. It'll help you get through it. And that final letter, that E, and to empower everyone I meet to do the same as if our lives depended on each other. Take that pledge. You can see it on our website, trylovenow.com. If you don't get it now, go there later. It's right on the homepage, right at the top. I guarantee you, if you do that, you're going to see something positive come out of it. I want you to share your stories with me. Like I said before, a lot of work that we do is with police. And we're teaching and we're loving on them and we're teaching them. And the irony of all that is that I started this journey because I was racially profiled and abused by police, and I hated them. I hated all of them. And I feared all of them. And when I decided I was going to make a film, I got death threats. And I didn't know who to go to. I couldn't go to the police because the police were the ones threatening me. So the irony is that 10 years later, I had a California Highway Patrol person come back to me after he read my book, Love is the Answer. And he said, this book may have saved my career. And it also may have saved my marriage because I'm finally able to open up and share my heart with my wife. I'm finally able to be transparent and be vulnerable and open up and allow her to love me. And for me to be able to love her. He had been taking the stress of his work home, and I see this all too often in highly stressful jobs where people will bottle that up, and then it comes out when they explode. So it's really ironic that I started a work 10 years ago because of bad treatment that caused me to hate them. And then there was this one guy, Chief Melvin Russell in the Baltimore PD at the time, who was always there, always showed love. And he messed my mind up. I didn't know what was going on because I wanted to hate these people, but he was so loving. He called me brother. He said, I love you. He showed it. He meant it. And it made a huge difference in my life when I woke up one morning thinking maybe I should go after those guys before they come after me like they said they were going to. And the words of Melvin Russell rang in my mind and my heart. I love you, brother. We have the ability to make things better. And the only way things are going to get better is if we learn how to love each other and we put it into action. That's the only way. No government program, no law is going to make things better. Stop waiting for Superman. He ain't coming. We got to do the work ourselves. Can't wait for your political leader. You can't wait for your police chief. You can't wait for your high school principal. You can't wait for anybody. You got to be the change that you wish to see. Harvey, my brother, can you share a bit of wisdom with us?
I was thinking about Dr. Cash's really powerful words. And there was one thing she said early on where we get up in the morning and we make a choice. And I was thinking, there are three choices, I guess. There's the choice to do something bad. Let's not make that choice. But there's the choice to not do anything useful that day. Let's not make that choice. Let's make sure that we make the choice to take a positive action. And AJ, you just used the word action several times in the last minute. And I was thinking about the fact that in the pledge to learn and to open, these are internal actions, but to volunteer and to empower, these are the external actions where you actually reach other people. And Dr. Cash gave us some really powerful words from Corinthians, and I know love is the answer, uses those. I have a very simple teaching on the Jewish side of things that has always been powerful for me when I worry about social action and what I can do to make a difference. There's a teaching called Pirkei Avot, which goes back 2,000 years, wherever. It's chapters from the teachings of the earliest rabbis, and tucked in section 2, there is just 2 lines. You are not obliged to finish the task, neither are you free to neglect it. Simple, the requirement that the action is ours to continue even when we know we won't finish the results we want. This is the planting of the tree by someone who knows that person will never sit in its shade, which I've seen in South Asian teachings. There are so many things that could cause us to give up. One is how easy it is to be isolated, to watch television, to decry the news, and then turn to HBO and watch a movie. It's really important to get out into the community, and the pandemic has made it so difficult in so many ways, except Zoom has filled a void and is not as good as being in person. But we have opportunities. We can't neglect those opportunities to take the actions, the volunteering, the empowering that are part of the pledge. And I admire how well you have put together Love is the Answer and the pledge, and the focus that it can give us to really make a difference. And getting out of our doors, virtually or in person, and reaching people. And everybody in your community is worth knowing, talking to, learning their stories. One of the fascinating things when I've had time sitting at the house with the pandemic is how often when I'm talking to somebody, there's more time to hear their story. Not quite as pressed to get out and run around because of the pandemic. Sit and listen to people. And my impression is everybody would like to talk about themselves if they think somebody will actually listen to them. Mm-hmm. And that's so important to me. So my words are not as strong as Dr. Cash's. That was really powerful. That good training, I guess, over from AJ. Thank you.
Harvey, I loved what you shared. Can you please repeat the 2 lines that you shared?
You are not obliged to finish the task. Neither are you free to neglect it. That's just 2,000 years old, a piece of wisdom that just reaches me every time I want to stay home and watch HBO. I don't really watch movies. It's powerful. It's powerful.
Harvey, man, I appreciate you so much. You've been a dear friend and a strong supporter of this work. You have definitely been living out the love principles, and what you shared, those 2 lines, those I'm going to carry those with me. Hey, I might even make those my first tattoo. I've been trying to figure out what my first tattoo is going to be for the past 20 years, man. You may have just solved that riddle for me.
Can I provide a small amount of good news? And I'm thinking that we're midway through May, and Love is the Answer weekend in September is not so far away. Love is the Answer Day, I guess. Yesterday, something very powerful happened in our community, and Mayor Lois was part of this. A woman went to Florida and she saw some murals, banners in a project called Embracing Our Differences. And she came back to Ann Arbor and she raised money from University of Michigan Medical Center and the county. And yesterday she unveiled 60 20-foot by 20-foot panels in our parks around Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti, 4 different parks, which with artwork from the students of our community, from the adults of our community, from national artists, from international artists, all with the theme of embracing our differences. 20-foot by 20-foot panels in our parks, 4 different parks. We saw the opening ceremony at Gallup Park, and there was somebody who saw a way to try and reach people. And those banners in September, when the park display ends, they will go somewhere around the community to leave that message for a long time. A small, significant step forward here in our area.
Oh, that is beautiful. Beautiful. I'd love to see some of those images. Is there, I see Lois put in the chat, powerful display on display until September 30th. Is there, do you know if there's a website?
Embracing Our Differences. I'll get it for you.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome. So, Harvey, you mentioned Love is the Answer Day. That's a day that people can get involved. You know, we tend to like events, right? We gear up for them, we prepare for them, and then we do it. The problem with events typically is that once the event is over, it's done. You know, people stop thinking about that. We're challenging people on September 17th, Saturday, September 17th, to join us for our 4th annual Love is the Answer Day. But that day is really a reminder to do this work every day. And so we had paintings being done all over the country. Thank you for putting that link in the chat, Harvey. I'm going to share that on the Facebook page later as well. Yeah, September 17th, we're asking people to put love into action, to do those 2 internal steps and those 2 external steps. Find someone to learn about and open your heart to and volunteer to be part of the solution in their life and then empower others. Last year was all about painting murals. And this year, we're opening it up to, we're going to do that as well. We're going to encourage people in cities and towns all over to paint murals depicting what love means to them in that community. And you can learn about how to do that at trylovenow.com. But we're also saying, what if there's a person in your community who is 80 years old and their house needs a new coat of paint, and maybe you see they got a busted window, and you know, maybe their car needs repairs. Don't say people don't drive at 80 now, because my mom's 91, almost 92. She's still driving. So we got to take care of our elders, right? So what if you got together with 4 or 5 friends on that day and found an elderly person in your community, someone with all this wisdom, all this life experience, who's being neglected, and you just go love on them for the whole day. You bring meals, you paint that person's house, you clean up their car, you give their dog a bath. How much of a difference will that make? Right? What if you got together with some folks and cleaned up that blighted piece of property that is filled with trash? Or what if you created a love garden? You'll find information about love gardens at trylovenow.com as well. What if you went to a restaurant and got a bunch of to-go food from your favorite restaurant, but you gave it away that day to your local police department or the nurses at your local hospital? There's all kinds of things you can do. You can, you know, go and just put a poster in your window or a sign in your yard. saying, try love now, and put that pledge on it. So many things that we can do that day, September 17th. But we're asking people to do those things every day. We just want to do that together on that day. Spread love. Man, I love that. What you said, Harvey, you are not obliged to finish the task. Neither are you free to neglect it. We have responsibilities, people, to love our neighbor. Someone once asked me, what's the opposite of love? And I said, hate. They said, maybe not. Maybe it's indifference. There's a lot more indifference than there is hate. What we saw in Buffalo, that was hate. We don't see that every day. Not at that level. But indifference, I see that a dozen times a day. Multiply that by however many billion people there are on the planet now. What is it, 6 billion, 7 billion? I'm guilty of it. I need help in that area. I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes thinking, what can I do better? How much more can I do? But there's some days where I'm just sitting on the couch watching NASCAR, just not thinking about anything at all. I mean, you do need downtime. You need time to enjoy things, but you know, that's part of wellness. You got to take care of yourself and do the things you love to do. But we got to spend a lot more time thinking about what can we do better? What can we do more of to make this world a better place? Because we're not free to neglect it. We're not.
Yeah.
Not. Mayor Lois, one of my favorite people on the planet.
And you're one of mine too. I so love you, and I am so grateful that God brought our paths together, and I pray that he lets our paths run together for a long, long time. And y'all just have to forgive me if I cry, but Dr. Cash, you were so in my heart, because from the beginning that we started, I started thinking about what I would share. I didn't want to just jump right in. And of course, First Corinthians was one of the things that I said, okay, I'll just read and share and talk out of First Corinthians. That is something that is a scripture that we have to live. We often hear messages and we say, oh, didn't he preach good, or wasn't that a good word? But we don't take time to allow what we heard, the word, to really so work in us that we are changed, that we actually truly become the word, living, walking, breathing, so that when people pinch us, they bump into us, they don't get Lois, they get the word, walking, living, and breathing. And we don't want to do that because it requires work. It requires work on our part. It requires sacrifice on our part. It requires a giving up of us, a giving up of our time to allow that word it requires work, in that we have to read that word, we have to look at it, we have to digest it, we have to bring it back up again and go over it again and again until it really becomes our flesh walking and making a change in this world. This morning, I often ask that we do a resolution or a letter or something to when things like this happen. And I was thinking about a letter to the to the mayor and the people of Buffalo a resolution supporting them through this time. And then I decided to send them AJ's email regarding this service today. And I just said, if you're free at this time, join in. But I prefaced it by the fact that we have to choose, that it all boiled down to, and I'm having Zoom problems this morning, so I don't want to stop to read exactly what I wrote to them. But essentially, it was saying that I was challenging us, and I've been challenging our council to different things. But I said, I choose to choose love. What happened in Buffalo was a point blank example of love versus hate. And that is the world that we live in today. And we must acknowledge. And AJ, when I asked you that question earlier about things getting worse, I know they are. That was just really somewhat of a rhetorical question because I know that they are. But we live in a world today where it is truly love versus hate. We can look at what's going on in our government. We can look at what's going on all around us, and that's what we see. We can look at what is happening in Florida. It's love versus hate. We can look at all the banning of the books. Why ban a book about a mouse and about the Holocaust? It happened. Love versus hate. The whole abortion issue, love versus hate. I don't agree with abortion, but I don't believe the government should be telling people what to do. And I had friends that back in the day in my high school class had abortions and almost died on somebody's kitchen table with a coat hanger. So yes, let people decide what, it's not yours to decide. Why should a group of old men decide what's going to happen to this 15-year-old girl?
Right.
Let me stop. Not stop, but let me slow down. It's love versus hate. And we have to decide daily, as Dr. Cash was saying, we have to choose each day, almost in each situation, make that choice, love versus hate. And I told all of my the people that are department heads or have not just, I didn't have everybody in the cities. I didn't have their email, but I sent it out to those that were leaders within our administration. And I said to them, I choose to choose love. Please join me, because it's an act of our own. It's an act of our will. And we have free will. And Harvey, I loved what you said. We can't just leave it. We don't have to do it, but we should do it. I was looking up some other scriptures regarding what love is. And we can go back to the 10 Commandments. And when God first gave them, one of the things in Exodus chapter 20 and verse 6, it says, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. And that word there, mercy, and Harvey, you can correct me, but in the Hebrew, when I looked it up in Strong's Concordance, one of the definitions of that word mercy was love, showing love unto thousands of them that love me and keep his commandments. But then over in Matthew 22 and verse 37, and Jesus said unto them, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And as I was I thought about that more than just today. So many people, and I was in discussion with this about with someone the other day. So many people do not love themselves. So they're loving their neighbor as themselves because they don't love themselves. They don't know how to love themselves. They don't feel like they're worthy of being loved. And so therefore, what I'm loving, how I'm loving me, that's what I'm going to put on you, AJ. That's the love I'm going to give to Dr. Cash. That's the love I'm going to give to Harvey, to Val, and to all those around. So we have to, in some way or other, begin to so love people that, first of all, we got to so love ourselves. Yes. We have got to allow our hearts to be laid bare before us, so that we can see those things that are in us that are keeping us from loving ourselves, from being good to ourselves, so that we can in turn love someone else as they deserve to be loved, as we deserve to love them. But we got to first love ourselves. And there's just so much work that we have got to do all through scripture, all through whether it's the Old Testament or the New Testament. We are told to love one another. That's what God is. God is love, God is spirit, God is fire, and God is, I'm sorry, I can't think of the other one right now, but God is love. And if God is our higher power, whether we go through Jesus, or whether we go straight to God, or whether we're looking at Jehovah, if the Judeo-Christian God is our God, we have got to love and be reduced to love because he is love.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, right. And I will pray. I will share a prayer. I knew, actually, from a child, I knew that I was going to go to the foreign mission field, and I didn't always understand all of it. It was just a glamorous thing that someday I'm going to go to all these foreign lands and whatnot. But when I really, after the Lord called me to the ministry, and I really got serious into preparation, one of the things I heard an older lady at my church pray, and it hit my heart, and I've been praying it ever since. Lord, reduce me to love. Everything else in me or around me, or that I'm concerned with, or that is consuming me, reduce it to love. And Amen. I added to that, when I knew that before I knew exactly that I was going to Haiti, I knew that I would be there someday. I began to pray, Lord, teach me to love the unlovely. And who is more unlovely than me? So Lord, teach me to love me so that I can love the unlovely, others that are unlovely, until you do a work in them, till you do a work in me, that I might become lovable. First lovable to myself, and then lovable to others. I choose this day to love. I choose to choose. Even our choice is a choice. We can choose to choose love, or we can choose to choose hate. Or we can just choose to do as Harvey said, sit there and watch HBO. And I don't even have HBO. But we can choose. It's our choice. Mm-hmm. We choose each day how we're going to live our day. And I choose to choose love. I don't know if I haven't heard back from any of our staff. I don't know if it's because it's Sunday and they haven't been in their emails. I don't know if we have so many that are our staff, it was our staff and council, that so many that are afraid of the Open Meetings Act. And if they say something, they feel like we're going to be sued for breaching the open meetings. But I am going to keep that before our people. We must become a city that loves one another.
Amen.
And I ended my message to them today is, it was Buffalo yesterday, but it could be so easily be at Ypsilanti. If it can happen in Buffalo, it can happen in Ypsilanti. And it's really up to us. We can make a difference. We have diversity, and in our city's motto, diversity, pride, and heritage, or pride, diversity, and heritage. And I don't like it because pride goes before destruction. And why glorify our heritage when there was racism, in very vibrant racism, and Val can attest to that. It was still around when we were growing up, so it's there in the roots. And until we take time to really dig it out of the roots and get rid of it, it's going to be there, and it's going to spring its ugly head up, just like dandelions. You don't get the ball of the root, and it's going to pop right back up as soon as you cut it down. So we've all got work to do, and we got work to do here in the city of Ypsilanti. I just hope I'm around in office long enough to see some good work done. But I love y'all. Love you. And congratulations, Dr. Cash. And I think somebody else was on here. I tried to keep up with y'all, but it was just too much for me this time around. I am going to, I am going to. I've been around with AJ for about 3 or 4 years now. So I'll get it just like that now. So
you already got it, Mayor Lois. You already got it.
Yeah, everything's done but the paperwork. We appreciate and love you so much. And for those of you who don't know Mayor Lois Richardson, you need to get to know her, even if you don't live in Ypsilanti. You need to follow her and glean from her wisdom. This is the kind of leadership that we need. This is a woman who named her first 100 days in office 100 days of love. This is a person who has just the work that has been done there with her and Nat Alston and Harvey Summers and so many other folks has, we've seen a spread. We've seen a spread of love throughout Ypsilanti, throughout Washtenaw County, and into other parts of that state. And Lord knows that more love is needed throughout the state of Michigan and throughout the entire country. Folks, we have just a few more minutes left. I want to do one more quick sharing of a screen. I want to show you some images, some of the many images from last year's Love is the Answer Day. And here's an image of kids in Zimbabwe painting posters, expressing what love means to them. And look at those smiles, look at that artwork. There's a fine gentleman by the name of Dennis Gabori and his wife, Eleanor Burkett. She's an Oscar-winning filmmaker. He runs this program. We have financially contributed to them, and we're going to be doing more, much more. But this is what was happening last September around the world. Zimbabwe, Japan, Italy, other countries. Here's some photos from Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Our dear friends there, the DA, Matt Weintraub, the Peace Center, and so many other groups coming out. There were state delegates and students. A high school student actually designed that mural. Santa Monica, California, where Jane and I were, with the Santa Monica PD, and Todd Goodman, who's the original creator of our logo and our mascot, Kona, the love dog. And he painted a mural with young people and others who came in from all over the world to participate in this day. There were other cities that participated, but that's the kind of thing that was going on last year. And that's the kind of thing we want to see more of this year. I want to share a quote from my dear friend who's in heaven now, but he was really and still is, an inspiration to me. Congressman Elijah Cummings was a strong supporter of our work, hosted 2 screenings of our film, including the pivotal screening where the Howard County Police Department sent representatives to at Howard High School. And their Major Luther Johnson, who's retired now, but he prepared a rebuttal to a film he had not yet seen. And after that film played, he sat up on stage with me and dropped his head between his knees. And when he raised back up, there were tears flowing. And he told this audience, including the congressman and 450 other people, I prepared for a week to give a rebuttal to a film I had not yet seen, this Walking While Black film. And now I got to throw my notes in the trash because this film just changed my life. That's what he said. That's what he said. And he went on to live out the Love is the Answer principles. And he and Willie Flowers of the NAACP there, they came together the very first time that police department and the NAACP had done anything constructive together. They did a golf tournament where they spread love at that golf tournament. They raised $20,000 for families of fallen officers and young people in the community and other needs. They came together. They got out of their silos and they did something together. And that work continues today. That police department became the first police department in the country to license our film. And now we've got dozens of them, and we've got hundreds of police departments working with us through people like District Attorney Matt Weintraub in Bucks County, PA. The sheriff in Washtenaw County has been very active with us. Monroe County, New York, sheriff, many other places. Folks, we got to do the work. We got to do the work. We've got to put this thing called love into action. As Harvey said, and I got to repeat it again because I just love this. He said, you are not obliged to finish the task, neither are you free to neglect it. Folks, plant the seed, water that soil. You may not see that tree grow up and bear fruit, but if you plant that seed right now and you water that soil, someone is going to benefit from it. And that should be our goal. We need to spread love even when we don't see the results right away. Because I guarantee you, and I keep coming back to this, if enough people had shown that young man true love, learned about him, opened their heart to him, volunteered to be part of the solution in his life, and empowered others to do the same, he may not have made that fateful decision to drive 4 hours past and through some of y'all's communities to get to a store in Buffalo and kill people. I want you to think about that, because right now I'm sitting in Henderson, Nevada, thinking I'm safe and sound in my home. And there could be someone driving past my neighborhood right now with a car full of guns, planning on killing people. And by the grace of God, they're passing me by. Just because it didn't happen to us today doesn't mean it can't be us tomorrow. So we got to do everything we possibly can to make sure we spread this thing called love. Because if we don't, if we're indifferent or if we're hateful, that's what's going to come back to us every single time. We've got to do this work, folks. Any quick closing words from anyone before we close out?
Yes, AJ, I just want to say thank you for being obedient to the Father way back, and a thank you to your brother and his words of wisdom to you that started you on this path. And I thank you, and I thank to the Lord that he so touched your heart that he caused your ears, your spiritual ears, to hear the words of your brother, and continue to so nurture those words until you acted upon them and brought us to this place where we are now. And this movement is going to take off. People are hearing the word. It might seem like it's been moving slow and slow, to sometimes so slow it didn't seem like it was moving at all. But it's going to take off. People are hearing the word, and hearts are being prepared. Even with this tragic incident on yesterday, some hearts have been turned to love. So don't give up. You be strong, be of good courage, and know that there are those that are standing with you in love. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lois. Appreciate and love you. And to everyone, we got to sign off now, but keep putting love into action. Learn about others. Open your heart to their needs. Volunteer yourself to be part of the solution in their life today, and empower others to do the same. God bless you.
Bless you too. Bless you too. It was nice sharing this time with everybody.
Amen.
Amen.